I mean, I was told by my film professor, there are films and there are movies, and sometimes you've got to know what you're walking into.
Yeah. See, but I come from a time when movies were films.
I think if you were to ask me, Logan, who's your favorite superhero, my answer to you might be Batman. That's most likely going to be my answer. Batman means a lot to me. I think Batman and Spider-Man, they're like 1A and 1B. It's hard to pick between either one of those guys, but, you know, they're at the same table. It's in the same conversation. They're top two, 1A, 1B. It's hard, but they're still the cream of the crop. My second favorite answer, it's probably going to be Superman. He's probably my number two. And then, you know, we can go through Flash and so on and so forth after that. But still, Batman, I think, on a solid day, he's my favorite superhero. I really love Batman. I always have for a very long time, mainly because of the Nolan movies. But I tapped into a lot of super cool Batman stuff. I mean, The Batman, Robert Pattinson, really any medium of fiction, he's touched it, and he's been phenomenal in that. Obviously, for movies, he's been phenomenal. We have the Dark Knight trilogy, The Batman, Robert Pattinson. For comics, I have read Batman Year One. That's incredible. For video games, you have the Arkham trilogy of Batman games that are incredible in their own right and respect. Then also, when it comes to TV shows, we have the Batman animated show. I have seen Batman Mask the Phantasm. Love that movie also. Feels like everywhere Batman goes, even in the Lego Batman games, he's peak of fiction in there also. Batman means a lot to me, mainly because Batman is a regular guy. He wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider. He didn't crash here on Earth from some random, very far distant alien race planet. He is Batman, a regular guy who went through a lot of pain and struggle and tragedy. And in his pain and struggle, he chose to build himself and work on himself to be who he needs to be. That's why I love Batman, because anyone can be Batman. I can be Batman. You can be Batman. That's why I love this character. And even with every single comic and show and movie that comes out, it's never going to feel stale or boring or repetitive. It's always going to feel fresh. And now you may be asking, Logan, as a Batman fan, what do you think of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice? A film where Batman is killing people, and he's not really a good Batman in this movie. What are your thoughts on it? Was it right? Was it good? Well, I'm going to talk about it here today. There's a lot to go through, but first of all, first things first, my name's Logan. Welcome to the Courtofcinema podcast. Here, we talk about everything film and TV every single week. And today, we're obviously talking about Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Also, a very quick side note. Number one, I watched the ultimate cut of this movie. It's the 3-hour cut of this film. That is the version of the film you should be watching every time you watch Batman vs. Superman. And then also, my second side note, the score for Hans Zimmer in this movie is phenomenal. I mean, I'm going to be mentioning it as I dive into the movie, but still, the score is insane. It's definitely, we'll say, top 20, top 10 Hans Zimmer score. It's really incredible. I love the score for this film. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. And of course, for the context here, number one, we're going through every single Superman movie. That's why we're here today. We're in the Superman podcast series going through every single Superman film. We did Superman 1, 2, 3, Quest for Peace, and also all that stuff. We did the Superman Returns movie. We did Man of Steel. We did Underdog 2 at one point, and now we're here in Batman vs. Superman. Technically, not a Superman movie, but still, Henry Cavill's Superman is in it. It's one of the main Superman films everyone always talks about. So I decided, hey, even though it's Superman 1.5, not an official sequel, I'd say, it's important to go through. So we're going to go through here today. And a very quick side note, I just want to say thank you to anyone who's been listening to this podcast series or the podcast in general. This whole Superman series has been, I don't know if it's been fun. It's been a struggle to go through some of the bad ones, but still, you guys make it all worth it. You guys keep the lights on. You guys keep the fridge full. This entire podcast is not possible without you listening to this episode. Last week was Man of Steel, and that was over an hour, which I didn't think I was going to be talking about that movie for that long. Is this episode going to be over an hour, Batman vs. Superman? Maybe. I mean, these Snyder films are very ambitious and large in scope, so it might be an hour again. I don't know just yet. I'm not done yet. But still, regardless, thank you so much for supporting us. Listen to the show. It means the world to me, more than you know. And also just some more context here for Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Just in case you may have forgotten, This movie came out in 2016, which is also the exact same year as Captain America Civil War. So it was definitely a very fun year for movies. We had a lot of great films come out this year. Rogue One also was incredible. Disney decided, hey, let's make Rogue One and then never make a good Star Wars film ever again. That's, that was Rogue One. Rogue One's phenomenal. Also Deadpool and a lot of other super fun comic book films and movies alike are here in this year. La La Land, one of my favorites of all time, etc. List goes on. Great year for films. You get the point. But the main two films here from this year to talk about here are Civil War and Batman vs. Superman. They're two extremely similar movies and that come out with the two rival, comic book brands and studios alike. And one is better than the other. It was very controversial and very big talking point. I'll also talk about, comparing those two films. I'll talk about that a lot later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. But still, notably, that's here. That was some crazy hype and just clashing with these two films. It was a time to be alive. I'm not gonna lie. The NBA Finals, Steph Curry having a generational year, then also these two films also happening at this time. It was crazy. It was an insane time. Think what, Fortnite came out too at this time? I mean, look, summer 2016 was one of the craziest times in human history. It was insane. But, regardless, Batman vs. Superman, Civil War, I'll discuss, the comparison about that later. It's in my notes later in the episode. So, that's something to go through a little bit later. And now, as for me, what was my first initial reactions as a little kid watching this movie? I thought it was good. I saw it in theaters. I do remember that. Man of Steel, I feel like I saw it in theaters. I had to have seen that movie in theaters, but it was just so long ago. I don't remember it. But still, Batman vs. Superman, I do remember seeing this in theaters, mainly because of one moment, but I'll talk about that a little bit later too. But still, as a kid, I thought it was cool. I didn't love it as much as Captain America Civil War, but still, I did enjoy it. It is a favorite of mine. It's a part of my childhood, but, not as notable, I'd say, is a really accurate thing to say. And then going into release and reception, this movie did some solid numbers, actually. We have a box office here of $874.3 million against a budget of $250 million. So this movie won huge budget, but still huge profit. That's definitely what they want to see at the studio. And then Rotten Tomatoes critic side was not the best that it could have been. Looking over on Rotten Tomatoes, this film does have a 28% critic score and then a 65% audience score, which is split very evenly. I mean, it's a stark contrast split here. And clearly, one side liked it, other side didn't like it as much. But number one, I mean, there's no such thing as the critics, quote unquote. The critics aren't like a unified group of people. It's separate people with different kinds of opinions, but still, it's very clear. The fans kind of hated it, but not as much as the critics. You can definitely see through the Rotten Tomatoes split. So, yeah, that's very clear to see here. I do have a couple reviews here to go through, which I do think kind of emphasize how the movie turned out. It's interesting for sure. This movie definitely, it has become kind of like a cult classic because of the very passionate fans, but still, its legacy is going to be extremely interesting going into the next few years. Usually, I would have a review here from Roger Ebert, but Roger Ebert passed away before the film came out, very sadly. I do still have a review here from the website, which is from Matt Zoller Seitz. Gave the film a 2.5 out of 4 stars. Definitely not what you want to see. In Matt's review, he went on to say, there are a few brilliantly realized moments. The acting is mostly strong despite the weak script. Affleck and Cavill are both superb. Affleck unexpectedly so. And there's enough mythic raw material sunk deep into every scene that you can piece together a classic in your mind if you're feeling charitable. But if you aren't, Batman vs. Superman will seem like a missed opportunity. At times, it might make you long for Christopher Nolan's delicate touch. Their last 4 words have never appeared side by side before. Life's funny that way. So there's definitely a solid review there. I'll leave the full thing linked down there below also. And I definitely do agree that part of me thinks there's a missed opportunity. Then part of me is just, I came to peace with what it is at the end of the day. But still, missed opportunity. I'll also talk about that later. There's some things I need to talk about just in terms of the way this movie goes about setting up a universe, setting up an overarching everything. It wasn't as good as it really should have been. There's a lot of other films that are sunken also here in between. Like, I was thinking about going through their Suicide Squad that also came out, which I don't want to talk about at all. Shazam, then Aquaman as well. Wonder Woman also came out here too. The universe overall, DCEU, dumpster fire. I mean, I'm glad that we're moving on forward past this era. It was just a attempt and a miss. And James Gunn, please save us. That's what we have left at this point. Then over on Letterboxd, I do have a 2.4 out of 5 average on there. I have one little review here from Docs, who gave this film a 3.5 out of 5, if I'm not mistaken. And in their review, they said people are being harsh on this movie, which I definitely have to agree. I gave this film a very high score compared to others, but still I think the movie isn't as bad as people say. I think that people really aren't looking at the film for what it is, instead of looking at it for what they wanted out of the movie, which is understandable. You know, it's fair to have an expectation. Then once that expectation isn't met for you, you get upset. But still, if you're just looking at this movie saying, hey, why isn't Superman this and that? But instead, you should be saying, Superman is what he is in the movie. Let me go out of my way to try and understand why that is, and then maybe I'll like it a little bit more. Instead, it's just nostalgia and complaining and people saying it's not what it should be. Instead, make Batman this, and not just embracing Snyder's vision, which I think is the movie's kind of biggest downfall. It's not for everyone. The fans are equally upset as the critics are. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard to really love this movie, but still, I found a way to enjoy it. I'll explain here in a second why I love the movie and why I think it really is brilliant. So with all of my, prologue gap out of the way, it's time to start going into Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. This is going to be a fat episode as well. I'm going to be mostly defending, actually. My score is very high. I'm going to be defending my score and also defending the movie in terms of why I think the movie is brilliant in a way. To a degree, it's actually very brilliant. So I'm just going to start off here diving into these meat and potatoes for the movie. It's a lot to go through. This is a very hefty, hearty film. But the best place to start, as always, is the opening of the movie. That's where we're first introduced to everything. And, it's a great opening. It's I think, perfect opening to this movie. I couldn't have imagined it any better way. And I'm not sure if this is exclusive to the Ultimate Cut or the 4K Blu-ray. I'm watching on the 4K Blu-ray for all these. I have the full, Snyder trilogy, quote-unquote, on 4K Blu-ray. So that's, really good for quality. But the IMAX ratio in this movie is beautiful. That boxy IMAX ratio format is just glorious and spectacular. I love seeing it every time it's on screen. It's incredible. There's a lot of technical jargon explanation as to why it's in a boxy format. I don't know what that is. I'm not a cinematographer, but still, it's beautiful. It's glorious. I really do enjoy it. But also the music for this opening, the beautiful live music from Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL is incredible. It's spectacular. I just adore this opening and the music. It's been a favorite of mine since I first saw it in theaters, and even today, it's still incredible. The flashbacks of his parents' death is essential. It's important. It's what makes Batman Batman, and it's shot beautifully. It's I think the best shot Bruce Wayne parents' death scene ever. We're probably never going to get anything else better shot than this. I mean, Snyder, say what you want about Zack Snyder not being a good director, but still, he had some sauce. He had some juice. I mean, I'm going to be going through this entire 3-hour cut of the movie, and I'll be explaining he had a lot of sauce to work with, and he was juicing for sure. I think the cinematography also is glorious. I'm not sure if he did it for this movie, but as we go into Justice League, the Snyder Cut, the 4-hour cut of Snyder Cut, he talked a lot about storyboarding and how he did that for a lot of the scenes and moments of the movie. And I think that storyboarding was definitely probably something that happened here in this one. It feels like a lot of the shots in this movie are a comic book panel. I mean, he is really going into his bag of tricks. The cinematography, the framing, the blocking, the lighting, the leaves, it's all orchestrated and constructed and shot so perfectly. I couldn't think of any better way to shoot this. I mean, in this moment, in this opening here, everything is falling down, whether it's Bruce falling into the well, his parents are falling into their death, the bullets are falling out of the criminal's gun after shooting his parents, the sparks are falling in that alleyway, The leaves are falling in the forest. Martha's pearls are all falling. You can see that all this falling and Bruce falling into the well, his descent into darkness with the music, the everything. It's just so good. It speaks for itself all around. It's an incredible scene. And then after that, the bats carrying him up into a descent into Batman, into the beautiful lie. The quote at the end of this entire opening saying, "In the dream, they took me into the light, a beautiful lie." That one quote I can analyze and break down for hours on how it connects to everything in this movie and all the characters and the story, but no time for that. This episode's already going to be like an hour long, so we got to stay on track here, stay on path. We're short on time today. Then going right after this opening into Metropolis, this Metropolis moment, I remember being in promotional a lot here, but seeing this on the ground, mankind's introduction to Superman, after we just saw the Man of Steel, but from the, on the, above ground Man of Steel level, now to the ground level, it's horrifying. It's an absolute tragedy. I remember I talked about in last episode how in a review, I saw someone say that this was this universe's version of 9/11. How tragic that is. It's just tragedy. Showing the realistic horror of comic book movies, I think, is always going to be a plus. It's the reason why we love The Boys. Just, in reality, the gore and just the level of death and just the horrificness of the death in comic book films is, not portrayed really ever. That's why we love The Boys, Invincible. That's why I love this movie also, showing just the level of destruction and death. I mean, the hundreds, if not thousands of people that died in these movies isn't really ever brought up. Like Age of Ultron, Avengers, all these Avengers movies and MCU films never really got into that side of it until Civil War, showing the death and destruction that were caused by the Avengers. It's sad, and it's reality, it's real. It's always a plus for me. I love seeing Bruce Wayne saving people in the rubble. Something about Bruce Wayne not being the bat suit but still doing heroic stuff. I'm always a huge fan of that. We don't see it a lot of the time, but still, it's cool seeing that happen. It's always going to be a plus for me. Then, the shocking 18 months later. So we now know that Superman in this movie has been Superman for a little bit over a year. So he has a lot of experience. I would have liked to see maybe more Superman villains pop up. I mean, his rogues gallery is like what? Darkseid, Zod, Brainiac. Okay. And also we have in this movie, what's his name again? The big guy with the spikes. Doomsday, right? Yeah. Okay. So Doomsday in this movie, he's here, who's horrifying. I'll get to that in a while. So give me a second here to get to that one. But still, 18 months since Man of Steel. He's been Superman for a very long time. I would have liked to maybe feel that more. It kind of feels like it's been a couple months after the events of Man of Steel, even though it hasn't been. I would have liked to see more of, you're showing us he's a more kind of seasoned, a little bit grizzled Superman at this point. Also, if you're watching the ultimate cut of the movie, we have our introduction to Jimmy Olsen. I know for sure this one is in the ultimate cut. There's about like 30 minutes of extra footage in here. I'm not sure exactly what's what. I'm just going to be talking about everything in the ultimate cut, and then just, this is the actual way you should watch the movie. It has so much more context information. Jimmy Olsen, though, in this movie is something that they cut out of the film. I see why now. I am not really a fan of them doing Jimmy Olsen like this. This is one of the things that Snyder, I gotta admit, I'm not really a fan of it. At least have Jimmy Olsen stay for, here and there behind the scenes. It would have been cool to see. But yeah, our fan favorite Jimmy Olsen is introduced in the movie. Then after about 2 minutes, he gets shot in the face. So, that's the Snyder touch for you. That's what he's going to do to all your favorite comic book characters. And, now I'm starting to see why. Okay, makes sense. This is definitely still them showing us this is not a run-of-the-mill Superman story or Superman character. I mean, killing off a key Superman friend of the Daily Planet in the first 5-10 minutes of the movie. It shows, okay, I get it. I gotcha. Still not a fan of it, though. Also, he's a part of the CIA. And, it's come on. I would have liked to have Jimmy Olsen at least here for a little bit longer. It would have been cool to see. Well, yeah, turns out he's in the FBI. He has a film camera, which, also, once again, I shoot film in real life. I shoot film as a hobby. Shooting film's unrealistic in this situation. I mean, I get it. He has the film canister with a tracker in it, which I think is dumb. It would have been smarter to just maybe have one a digital camera because digital cameras can take more photos than film. Also, more consistency with the film process. It's going to be just faster in terms of shooting for a journalist company. And then still they probably wouldn't have found the tracker if it wasn't a film camera. Still I'm ranting about that because I'm a little bit of a photography nerd now. But still, he gets shot in the face in 5 minutes. That's sad to see, but it's Zack Snyder for you. And then Superman introduced, and I think that the more I watch these movies, the more I realize just how much they didn't understand Superman. I never really realized it until I recently just started more of diving into the character of Superman, what he should be, what he should stand for, and this was not the best version of that. Cavill tried. Cavill was given a not so good script, but still, I think that just what he does in the opening, one, destroys a drone, again, flies through a drone, destroys a missile, which I know is cool, destroy a missile because Lois Lane might die, but destroying the drone, not really a fan of it. Then he literally sends a guy through a brick wall. We don't see it, it's never brought up again, but most likely that guy is dead. He most likely killed that guy, or at least he is in generational hospital debt, which I'm not a fan of either, but Batman does it too, so we'll give him a pass for it. But still, Superman, I don't think should be flying full speed through human men through a brick wall. He is probably dead for sure. Or, like I said, his children's children will have to pay hospital bills for this one act. So I'm not a fan of it, never have been, but still, he was a terrorist, so he gets a pass as being ran through a brick wall. Maybe that's what it is. Then we're introduced to the main conflict of this movie. Well, we're not introduced to Lex Luthor yet. A quick side note here also. I'll talk about it again later also. But there is so much going on in this movie. This movie is so ambitious with the conflict. The main thing here is the people are against Superman. That's the main thing. The courtroom drama stuff, I'm a big fan of it. There's so much going on in the movie. It's a lot to break down. That's why the Ultimate Cut of thing is so good, because there's so much going on, so much context and characters. This and the third, it's crazy. It's really insane. What's also, I say it's insane in this movie, is Batman. We've already had the Bruce Wayne introduction with the opening, the Metropolis, but now this is our first Batman scene in the movie, and I know that this is how I saw the movie in theaters, because I still remember to this day seeing the film in theaters and then being afraid of Batman as a kid. Batman really scared me in this moment. I've never been truly afraid of a hero on screen, ever. Maybe there's some instances where maybe it happened, but afraid, never. I was, as a kid, horrified of Batfleck for a second in the opening. Really, it's horrifying what this scene does. It's also incredibly cool. It's very fun. I really do have to admit, Snyder, he has some juice. He cooked here for sure. The way this scene is constructed is insane. Seeing sex-trafficked women scared to come out of the cage, and they're speaking a foreign language. I don't know what language it is, but they're saying it's a devil, it saved us, it's still here. Then the cops try to open up the door's open, and they close it right back. That is just little stuff like that without showing anything. We still know it's something horrifying is here. The battering in the wall, I love that shot of, the police officers flashing their light and the battering illuminates in the wall. It's just a lot of show don't tell in the beginning moments of the scene. I love that. Show don't tell. The audience is smart. We can pin together certain pieces of it, but still, seeing how far gone Batman is in this moment, it's scary to see. Then, the engraving of the bat symbol into the guy's chest, hearing him screaming upstairs, is horrifying. The Bat brand of justice we'll talk about in a little bit here. Batman being the judge, the juror, and the executioner, cutting out the middlemen, just putting it all into his own hands, is horrifying. It's really scary. And then the scene that really scared me, the moment that made me just horrified, the scene of the cop going upstairs, and then Batman hiding in the corner of the ceiling, that just, me as a kid, I was horrified. Then the cop trying to shoot him, then does nothing. Batman just crawling up on the ceiling into a hole in the ceiling to get away. That is, literal demon stuff. It is terrifying. It's so scary, but I just love it. It's crazy. Really, it's crazy to a different degree. I mean, that is a insane sequence. Love her to hate it. Love her to hate the way he, started at Batman. He had some sauce. I mean, he really had some sauce here. And even outside of the Batman stuff being really good, the Bruce and Alfred stuff is also really good. I remember seeing a post that went, pretty viral a while ago, but it says that we've never had a bad Alfred. But we really haven't had a bad Alfred. You can say, if you're a guy that says Christopher Nolan Batman isn't that good, you can still say Michael Caine is fire. If you're not a fan of the Batman with Robert Pattinson, you can still say that, the Alfred in the movie is still solid as hell. I mean, they really never miss with Alfred. This movie's no different. Alfred dynamic is so cool. Alfred is this, is British guy, really grizzled. Love his outfits, the hair. He, is drinking like scotch all day. It's super cool. I love Alfred in this movie. He's fire. And I think that Michael Caine is still maybe my favorite Alfred. But I mean, really, Jeremy Irons is just so good in the role. He fits it so well. The aesthetic that he has here with also Ben Affleck acting alongside him is just so good. I really he might be number one now. I don't know. It's once again 1A, 1B for the Alfreds. They're both incredible. But also just the line delivery, Alfred always just confronting Bruce Wayne is also just super cool. Bruce, we can tell, is definitely a shell of what he should be and a shell of what he ever was. Then Alfred telling him that the feeling of powerlessness turns good men cruel. That is just extremely true for the character of Batman. I mean, he really does feel so powerless against the god of Krypton with Superman that he has become this very cruel man, especially after all that he's lost. With Robin, he lost to this universe. We don't know exactly what happened. I mean, that was definitely supposed to be a future solo Batfleck movie. That never happened, sadly. But, maybe one day we'll get something. I was actually thinking maybe they can do, the old Bruce Wayne. If we ever have, a Crisis Justice League movie with the multiverse stuff, maybe Batfleck comes back for, an older Bruce Wayne figure with the gray hair, hunchback. That could happen, maybe. I mean, the Flash messed up a lot of stuff, but still, I have hope for that one day. And this film really bounces between so much different characters and villains and heroes. It's a lot to really keep up with, but Lex Luthor's introduction is still incredible. I love and hate Luthor. I think I like Jesse Eisenberg, but he might just not be the thing for Luthor. This Luthor is interesting. It's very different. It's very clear they wanted to do a lot of things different. We can tell from the Suicide Squad that, Jared Leto Joker was a lot. That was something, really. Something is the word, I'd say, for sure. But, Luthor in this movie is interesting. He's very cool. I love seeing the theme from Hans Zimmer again, the theme of Hans Zimmer. It's crazy. Luthor pulling all the strings is very crazy here, too. I mean, he's really pulling a lot of strings. That's the really whole thing of the movie, which we'll talk about a little bit later also. But something about, Jesse Eisenberg being this, super small, nimble guy, putting Jolly Ranchers in people's mouth, pissing in a jar and saying it's Granny's peach tea. This really maybe isn't the best Lex Luthor that it really could be. Lex, when I think of him, he's not this. Lex maybe doesn't have to be this super quirky guy who's kind of a nerd and really nimble and weird and has some definitely very obvious mental disease. It's odd, but, still, I love and hate it at the end of the day. And there's a lot going on in this movie. I mean, there's so many characters and overarching arcs and everything, but still, the movie is still centered around Superman. Superman is still the center point, center theme. Superman is this movie. The movie is everyone and everything versus Superman. Whether it's the people versus Superman, the people of Earth versus Superman, or Clark versus Superman, trying to just see and understand what it is he's supposed to be. Bruce Wayne and Batman versus Superman. That's the main overarching, physical battle here. Lex versus Superman, the world, and just seeing him struggle with being a god. Later on in the movie, we hear Lex say, if God is all powerful, he cannot be all good. And if God is all good, he cannot be all powerful. That's what the movie, I feel like, is really centered around. how, Clark is really all good. So therefore, he can't be all powerful. He can't really control what he is. And really, the people of Earth all thinking that Superman should operate under jurisdiction of the government, which can lead into different kind of agendas and this and the third. It's a lot to think about. But still, I love that. Him struggling with being a god, obviously protesters spray painting on his chest, false god. I mean, it's a lot to really discuss and talk about. And something that I like a lot about the ultimate cut of this movie that isn't in the main theatrical cut, once again, the ultimate cut, I understand, 3 hours long, it's insane. Still, it's the best way to watch the movie, because in the ultimate cut of the movie, we see Clark Kent investigating Gotham City and investigating what happened in Africa, trying to figure out why is this lady saying these things that didn't happen, why is she falsely accusing me. That's in the ultimate cut. And in the ultimate cut, mainly what adds a lot more layers to it is seeing how the conflict between Superman and Batman grows, because Clark Kent is going out of his way to investigate that, going to Gotham to investigate what's going on. And I love when he's going out to investigate, and the way that citizens of Gotham are talking about Batman like he's the boogeyman. One of my favorite scenes of the entire movie is the old guy saying that there's a new kind of mean Batman, and he's dangerous, and he's hunting. You might want to get out of here before dark. He's going to catch you. That's insane. They're talking about like he's this boogeyman, like Candyman. It's crazy. I really do appreciate that. It's something like that if it was in the original movie, maybe it would have gotten better received. It does add a lot of important context to the movie that makes the movie feel a little bit vacant without it. And what I love about rewatching this movie time and time again, I think that I've been trying to rewatch this movie like once a year. I didn't do it last year, I don't think, but still I try to do it at least once a year. But every time I watch it, I always find new little details and Easter eggs and little things I didn't even notice last time I watched it. The film never changed, but I just kind of pay attention a little bit more. That's how it goes every time. But in this time that I watched the movie, I noticed just how much Lex Luthor is pulling the strings and, doing a little bit of instigating and controlling things behind the scenes. It's very cool to see that. There's the moment that is so small that I didn't even really notice. When Clark goes back to the Daily Planet after he was in Gotham investigating Batman and seeing all of his corruption and things like that, we see that Lawrence Fishburne's character gives Clark a letter saying that someone from the committee requested Clark Kent go to Lex Luthor's charity, with Bruce also there. Now, I love that little moment because obviously it's someone in Lex Luthor's team trying to get Clark Kent and also Bruce Wayne in the same room together, building more of that conflict and that tension. And it's crazy that, well, we know now Lex Luthor knows who Clark Kent is, and he obviously knows who Martha Kent is, and he knows that they're all connected to Superman. He knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he's actively trying to put them together in the same room. He knows that they both don't like each other's methods, and he's just causing this clash with them, which I didn't even know. It's the first time I watched it. It's very confusing and scary just how powerful Lex Luthor is, that we never really get to see it, but just more, we do see it, but it's never really able to pick up on it, and it's not really in our face as much as we really need it to be. But I do really like that. I think that Zack Snyder did a decent job with Lex Luthor. I mean, the really weird and random lines of dialogue talking about how devils don't come from beneath us, they come from the sky, and there's a lot of crazy biblical stuff we can talk about here with that, which I am not diving into today. We know that, obviously, know that in the Bible, when Lucifer tried to rebel against Jesus, we know that God struck Lucifer down to earth like a lightning bolt. I remember that in the Bible a little bit. I pay attention a little bit in Sunday school, a teeny bit. I'm not a full-on theologian, I'm not a pastor, I'm not Joel Osteen, but still, I know a little bit here and there. It's super cool seeing those weird lines of dialogue, but this just really isn't Lex Luthor. It's not what he really should be. I feel like, what James Gunn is doing with Lex Luthor, that's going to be really cool. That's what I think Lex Luthor should really be. He should be bald. That's a really basic line right there. And, it's going to be cool to see what they do in the new movie. But still, here, I appreciate it. I appreciate what they did with Lex Luthor here. And maybe in the future, we'll see some inspiration with the new Lex come from this old one. We'll see. And even as we know in the new DC universe, at least we're still being told that there's going to be a new Batman that's older, more grizzled. We don't know when that's happening quite yet. We don't know if maybe Matt Reeves is going to come around and want his Batman to be in the DC universe, or if they're still going to have these two Batmans going hand in hand, different universes, but different movies, different franchises, different directors. It's very confusing, but it might happen. Who knows? I do still love this Batfleck Batman. I mean, the sequence of him having the dream about his parents, a demon bat coming out of his parents' grave, then waking up next to a random girl and bottles of alcohol and bottles of pills on his nightstand, and taking random pills with alcohol combined. That's like not Batman at all. It's so much of a shell of what he should be. But still, the Snyder Vision was so different and so bad, but still, I love something about this version of Batman. I know that he repents all of what he did before and really denounces that old version of himself in the end of the movie, but still, I do think that Snyder was cooking a little bit. He had a little bit of juice. Like I said, Snyder had some sauce. He did have a little bit of juice here. And once again, still Bruce Wayne being invited to the Lex Luthor charity event, and just Lex setting up this big battle. You know, he knows that they're going to be in the same room together. He's going to try to get them to talk to one another and still further build the tension, which I do think is cool. I do like that, but still, I don't really like Lex not being as big of a villain as we think he should be. I think it could have been constructed better, written better, to be a little bit more cohesive, because for the audience, if you're watching it for the first time, it's going to be confusing. You're not really going to understand what's happening. It's a lot of movie going on, and that's what a lot of the criticism was really who is the villain, what's the villain doing, why is he so weird, why don't I really know what he's going after in the movie. It can be confusing till the very end, but I'll talk about that in a second. I do, when I watch the movie, and still now, I love the spray-painted Robin suit saying the ha-ha jokes on you, Batman. Batman keeping the dead Robin suit as just a reminder. That it's just so cool. It's very dark and scary, but that's just awesome to see. I do love that. I mean, with the combination of the spray-painted Robin suit, the fact that he doesn't even live in the same old Wayne Manor, the death of Robin, the old Wayne Manor in ruins, it's a mirror of Batman old self is destroyed. You know, his old self with Robin is dead. The old Wayne Manor that he had is gone and destroyed. We're not sure exactly how that happened. It happened previously and, before the movie started. But still, it's cool to see that. It's cool to see all these things being a motif that Batman is a shell of what he should be. I feel like in this movie, yes, Snyder does direct it and glorify it in a way to really show love to the fact that this Batman is, killing people, and he's very dark and gritty. It's very esque of Dark Knight Returns, how Batman was old and, kind of lost his way a little bit. I haven't seen that comic. I'm trying to read it one day, but still, it's very clear Snyder had some inspiration from that version of Batman to adapt here, which I think he did a solid job at a little bit. He put a little bit here and there. It's not a full adaptation, but still, it's very clear that he loved that comic and loved that Batman. Even more, we haven't to this point gotten a lot of Batman action sequences, but still, what we have gotten has been really cool. Like, I do love Bruce Wayne infiltrating the charity event, talking to Alfred in his earpiece and trying to steal data. That's super cool. Seeing Batman use the Bruce Wayne alter ego to infiltrate and get information out of this event. I do like that. And also the Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor and also Clark Kent interaction, the three of them together, that's super cool. I feel like it's still not really, accurate to what would happen in reality, but still, they have to drive the conflict, they have to build the tension, because the movie is called Batman vs. Superman. I do hope and dream that in the future we get Batman and Superman on screen together and they're actually friends. They're the world's finest. They're the two best DC heroes. I love the relationship just as them being friends with one another. I think that's something that we really are missing in live action. We haven't gotten that really at all in this universe. We would have gotten it later down the line, maybe. I know this whole timeline thing was weird with the whole nightmare stuff. I'll talk about that in a second, so stay tuned for that. But still, the whole Lex Luthor or Clark Kent and also Bruce Wayne relationship is one that's one of the best out of all comic book media, I think. And I would love to see that more as we go into the future of this new DC universe. It should happen soon. And also Wonder Woman is here too in this little charity gala thing. Wonder Woman, looking back on it, the legacy of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman will not be a good one. I feel like it had its time for a second. I know Gal Gadot, I think, said some controversial things outside of acting, and also her acting was bad, and the movie that she stars in are bad too. So she really all around, I wouldn't say fumbled the bag, but it didn't really go her way. You know, I'm happy to see who the next Wonder Woman is. As we go into Justice League next week, I'm going to just give out like a fan cast of who I think should be our new Justice League. We already have Superman, but I'll still give who I think would be solid for them to cast. I have some solid Wonder Woman casts in the back of my head, and we'll see how that goes. But still, for now, Wonder Woman, she's here. She's in the movie. It's cool to see, but I feel like looking back on it now, her movies weren't really that good. The way the movies and her acting turned out, I just kind of checked out mentally when I saw Wonder Woman on screen, sadly. I know when it first all came out, she was like it, and then it fell down a cliff after Justice League and also her movie. And then 1984 Wonder Woman movie didn't do as good either. So it's been a bad legacy for Wonder Woman. We need more of her in a better movie. Hope we get that soon. But in this film, you know, her whole espionage role thing was cool. Her stealing the data from Batman is cool. I do like that. I mean, Gal Gadot maybe wasn't bad. Maybe it was the scripts, but I don't know. It's hard to say. But still, moving on past bad acting and a bad character. Moving on here with the Day of the Dead montage speaks for itself. I mean, the whole world and all the news outlets talking about Superman and if he should be under jurisdiction, what are his rules and limits we should allow for him. It's crazy. I mean, I do love all that. I mean, it really speaks for itself. There's nothing I can do to top a scene like that, also starring Neil deGrasse Tyson randomly in this movie. I mean, nothing I can do to really elevate that scene as much as it already does for itself. The Hans Zimmer score, the great directing, Superman completing all these heroic acts and still being criticized for it is crazy. And I know that as we go into the next Superman movie, that's going to be a little bit of the plot there too with that one. So, I mean, that's going to be cool to see. But still, Day of the Dead montage is like, it's like a top 3, top 5 Superman scene for me right now. Out of all of the whole entire series, it's up there for sure. And still further after that, we're still going into the whole ultimate cut here is diving more into Clark Kent investigating Batman and investigating the bat symbol being the brand of death. You know, when Batman brands someone with his bat symbol, they get killed in prison. You know, him being the judge, juror, executioner, and still he's actively killing people. You know, one of Batman's rules, Batman doesn't kill. No matter what, he doesn't kill. That's his main rule, and still he's breaking that actively in this movie, which I think it goes to show just how far gone he is, but still to the point of to where a lot of people criticize Batman for not killing his villains because they think that, you know, he sends Joker away in Arkham Asylum, then Joker breaks out a week later, then kills like 50 more people. You know, he's actively not doing anything either. So I think that it's to that point where Batman is just cutting out the middleman, cutting out the corrupt system, and making himself the own system with judge or executioner and still killing everyone no matter what. Which I think that is, it makes sense, but still obviously Batman doesn't kill, therefore it's immediately flawed for all the fans' eyes. And after this sequence, obviously, even more of Batman killing people is our very iconic now, I guess, nightmare flashback scene. You know, we see Batman in this sequence of the flash forward is what it is really, is him killing people in this very distant future where we would have gotten this in a later movie, but still, the way things panned out, we're never going to see what Snyder was trying to cook up here. Unfortunately, it looked kind of cool, but, you know, it is what it is. The IMAX ratio, once again, is just spectacular. It's so scrumptious and crisp. I love it. You know, watching a movie on the 4K disc, then with that format popping up on there, it's great. You know, but this scene in this movie, it's a weird placement, I'd say, only because we never got to see how it really panned out. You know, the dark Mad Max aesthetic of Batman and all these heroes and stuff is very, very cool. Batman killing people isn't cool. Superman also killing people, not very cool at all. Barry Allen coming back in time to warn Bruce Wayne. That, once again, we would have seen how it panned out if it never got canceled. So I think that maybe it would have not been an out of place scene. You know, it really would have all come full circle if we eventually got to our later DC films later down the line. But, you know, that never happened. So it's just kind of left here with no purpose forever in time. I think it really just would have made more sense and not would have been as confusing, but, we can't do anything about it now. For now, it's just a random weird scene with Batman killing people that, if you're watching it with your friend and your friend asks, what is this random scene of all this nightmare Mad Max stuff? You just have to say, I don't know. Who knows? Really, we don't know what he was trying to cook up here. He did eventually, kind of give us his plan for what a Justice League 2 would have been, but it wasn't that good in my opinion. So I'll talk about that maybe next week as we go into the future. But, still, for now, Nightmare scene is cool, out of place, has them killing people, Batman, Superman, brutally murdering people, which shouldn't happen, but maybe if we got more context as to why and what happened, it would have made more sense. Maybe. But for now, we'll never know. For now, all we have is this movie, Batman vs. Superman. Still, I think Lex's plan being so elaborate in this movie to the point where I don't even like it anymore. It's just so elaborate, so, I think, just luck involved here, too. I know Lex Luthor, very smart person, very smart guy, but it's to a point where some of these steps in his plan are just dumb luck. Really, he could just die at any point. Like, Lex Luthor really could have gotten killed by Batman. Batman really could have found out at any point Lex's plan, and it's just pure luck that he didn't. Really, it honestly is. I understand he's manipulating, gaslighting everyone to hate each other, but still, it's like, come on, at some point, it's just really dumb luck at the end of the day. Like Clark Kent investigating the Batman stuff, Lex Luthor sends Clark Kent letters with all the Batman articles and stuff about him killing people, then Clark just happens to investigate that's all very corrupt. Like, it's just kind of dumb luck. What if Clark Kent got the Batman letters and stuff and was just like, okay, cool, I don't really care. I'm not in Gotham. Why would I care about that? Then what? Now you have no conflict for the movie Batman vs. Superman. It's like, it's just so weird to me. I'm not really a fan of the whole elaborate plan. If it was just really mainly kind of no Lex and more of a internal conflict, it would have been better, but it's really not. It makes everything so external, which makes me check out and disconnect immediately. But still, we do have more stuff to talk about, like how our first Batman scene is cool. Our first actual Batman action sequence, I have to admit, it's fire. It is very cool. The white Portuguese chase is super cool. The Batmobile, I say, is cool. I think that my favorite Batmobile might still be the Tumbler from the Dark Knight trilogy. This one, close second, very close second. But still, Batman killing people is not cool at all. That's not fun. That shouldn't happen. It's very blatant. He kills people. There was actually, I think, one point in the movie, though, where a guy is driving, he's distracted, he drives into a gas tank and he dies. That wasn't Batman's fault. I'll give him that one. But still, he does still brutally murder people. You can't tell me that he doesn't. It's just like, okay, I know that there was this whole thing of Snyder where he said he's like indirectly doing it, but like, it's like, come on. There's no way that he's not. He's like brutally murdering guys here. That's not okay. Batman doesn't kill, but still, whatever. The thing I hate the most, though, in the sequence, the thing that I hate the most more than the killing is the Batman and Superman face off. I think it's terrible. I really don't like that at all. So for the first time that it's Batman and Superman, them facing off with one another, I think that it shows just how much of a misunderstanding of the characters is displayed in this movie. To where if Batman and Superman, in reality, in this moment, if a comic accurate Batman and Superman were together like that, face to face, it would not happen like that. It will be more of a conversation as with Superman saying to Batman, your methods are wrong, why are you doing this? Then Batman talking to Superman about it a little bit more, and Superman will still be trying to actively de-escalate the situation and find a calm solution first before fighting him. And he just tells him the bat is dead, bury it, and then flies away. Like, that's not what Superman would do. At least in my opinion, my vision of Superman would not do that. He wouldn't go there, drop a threat, and then leave. Superman would still try to reason with him, seek his understanding, and seek why he's doing what he's doing, and then go away. And then just try to find a solution first, instead of just pulling up with hella aura, a little fit pick, dropping a threat, and then leaving. That's not what he would do, in my opinion. I understand what the movie's called, and you have to drive, more tension and conflict, but it feels like it's just so forced for no reason. I think this entire movie's conflict, the whole Batman vs. Superman entire conflict, could have been resolved in that one moment. If either one of them tried, I understand with Batman, Batman's Batman. He doesn't really need to try to do that. That's, I'm not mad at that. But still, Superman would try to resolve the conflict. He would try to talk him down out of it. He would try to understand it. And he didn't, which I really, really hate. I don't like that at all. And I have some more Superman critiquing to do now, because now we're going into the courtroom drama section here, and it's a lot to talk about here. So just first of all, Superman called to court. I love that. The scene of Superman and Martha, I love seeing that, Clark Kent talking to Superman, Superman talking to Martha Kent about what he should do. Should he go to court? What is Superman anymore? I love that moment. I love these moments between Clark Kent and his mom in these movies. It shows just how much we really need it. It looks like in James Gunn's Superman, we're going to be getting more of Clark and his parents. I always love that. It's something that we really didn't have at all in the previous films, and now we're actually having it here. It's something that I really did desire, and now I have it. I do enjoy it. I have to admit, Zack Snyder, he cooked here. He did cook here. I'm not going to deny it. Also, something in the ultimate cut of the movie, we see the African woman who testified on court that Superman's evil. She lied. That's something that's in the ultimate cut exclusively, and it does add a lot more. That she lied to make Superman look guilty, and then her being pushed in front of a train, extremely dark, but still, that I think is necessary for the movie to make a little bit more sense. It's necessary to show that Lex paid her. It does add some more layers to the movie that I think are not here in the theatrical cut, and it makes the movie feel very vacant. And I feel like it's at this point now that we finally see, and the movie's finally revealing that Lex is really pulling all the strings. I've been saying like a broken record all day, but still, it's at this point in the movie that it's finally revealing this is all Lex Luthor behind all of this. And I think that it's just very cool to see, but it takes so long to build it all up that I'm not really a fan of it. But still, a lot of cool aura stuff behind us and out of the way. Superman in court is just a hella aura. I love him walking through the courtroom hallways, walking in the court is crazy. I love the tension that's being built here, the score from Hans Zimmer. It's all insane. Then the bomb in the court is crazy. That's an insane, just like jaw-dropping moment. Then just Bruce Wayne open up the letter, "You let your family die," is insane. It's crazy seeing this happen in this movie. But still, something to address here that I've seen people say online. I saw in a video with some, a TikTok video with some comments, people saying that Superman let these people die for a fit pick. Did Superman let everyone die in the courtroom for a fit pick? And I think that it's very simple, yet very complicated. I am going to defend it and also not defend it, because now when I think about it and rewatching it, the first time I watched it and other times I never really cared about that, but now that I've seen other Superman movies and media, I do have an opinion on it. So did Superman let everyone die in the courtroom? Yes and no. Okay, it depends on who's writing. That's really my three answers here. Yes, he did. No, he did not. And depends on who's writing the story is really the only answer I can give. And first things first, one, in defense, Superman is spotted saving people at the end of the whole bombing thing, and then he is told that they don't really need him, and they clearly need space to work. He sees the pain and death that he caused, and then he kind of knows now at this point that he's not really needed or wanted in that moment at that time. It's, sad to say, but still, yeah, he does save people. He sees that everyone is, pain, sadness, death, and tragedy that his existence caused. This pain and tragedy is because he chose to be Superman. Therefore, he feels he's not needed at a crime where he was indirectly responsible for that. So therefore, yes, I think that, no, I don't think that it's really his fault or his problem that he left there, or that, the bombing happened. So that's my defense for it. Also to note is that he couldn't see the bomb in the courtroom because it was encased in lead. So he couldn't see the bomb at all in the courtroom when he got in there. So therefore, he couldn't save everyone in the blast. The blast would happen without him knowing. He wasn't going to see it regardless of anything at all, if he was looking for it. So therefore, it's not his fault the bombing happened. Now that I got the defense out the way, now it's time to go into the offensive to why it is his fault that happened. And, it's kind of dumb that it happened at all. Now, so going into the offense here, my thing is, Superman, I understand he stayed a little bit after everything happened to say some people saw that everyone was a little bit upset at him, so he decided to leave. And my thing is that Superman, regardless of if he was wanted to or not, if he was wanted there at all or if he wasn't, he would have stayed for hours. Regardless of if people hated him or loved him, he would stay for hours to help save people out of the fire and make sure no one was left in the wreckage of the bombing site. That's regardless of it at all. So it's kind of like, imagine, I understand he's depressed and upset. Imagine if your house is on fire, right? And the fire department, they come and the main fire chief guy there is like, oh no, we got here too slow. We drove too slow. I'm super depressed and sad. I'm going to leave. You wouldn't want that to happen. You would want him to actually try and at least stay and help you put out the fire, see if anyone's hurt, and then after a few hours leave, right? I mean, that's just, common sense at the end of the day. So regardless of that, he's still Superman. If he's hated, if he's not hated, he's still Superman. Doesn't matter. He needs to stay for a few hours to help people. That's what needs to happen. And the fact that he left, it shows that they don't understand Superman at all. I understand he's human here. He is depressed and sad and scared. I understand all of that, like I said last episode, but still, it just wouldn't happen this way at all. I think that Superman would literally need to be dead for him not to stay there and help people. That's just my reality of what I think Superman should be, what I picture Superman in my head as. That's my thing. Then also, Superman in the moment of the blast, at least for me, if I was writing the story, if the blast went off, if he just didn't suspect it, it's encased in lead, he can't see it, I get all of that. I think that Superman would still try and be able to save 4 to 5 people in that courtroom explosion. Once again, the main thing here, it depends who's writing the story. That's the biggest thing here of everything. So if James Gunn is maybe writing it in this courtroom scene, and Superman, the bomb goes off, but still he can go in super speed, slow time down, save like half the courtroom. If it's James Gunn, maybe he's doing that. If it's Snyder writing it, then maybe, Superman doesn't see it, the entire courtroom dies. Who's writing the story here? It's clearly Snyder. That's kind of what the vibe he's been going for here. It's the writing. You can't just blame the actor or the character because they're fake. They're not real. It's just a character on a movie screen. It's the writing that does the entire work here. Okay, that's my whole take on it. So yes and no, I'm mad at the sequence here, but it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. You can't change it. That's what happened. What's happened here. And I think that the explosion in this moment is still great for just the character and the world development. It's a crazy moment, but still, it has some fans and not fans of the moment. That's like with everything in the movie. It's very controversial, very bold, which I will always appreciate boldness over safeness in any movie. Then after the explosion, I really do love Batman going back to steal the kryptonite after seeing what Superman indirectly did, but still seeing what Superman did in the courtroom, he goes back to then steal the kryptonite, and we don't see it happen. It's like we know what happened. We know if Batman goes to a compound with some armed guards, he's still going to take out everyone and get what he needs to get. And we see it on the cameras a little bit, but still, we know what happened. We're smart enough to put together the pieces. We know what happened that moment, which makes it just even cooler. Also, just mention it real quick here, Batman's CrossFit scene is super cool with him training. That's how I look in the gym, if you wanted to know. That's my routine every day in the gym. It's a very cool moment. I feel like that moment, that training scene, also a lot of other scenes in cinematic history, it's the reason why a lot of guys get into the gym. Batman, the character alone, is the reason why a lot of guys get into the gym. They're going on their Batman arc. Their vengeance arc is, inspired by Batman and Bruce Wayne. And, that's another reason why Batman's so good. He's still inspiring kids and adults alike to this day. And then my favorite Batman scene, well, one of my favorite ones before we go into the third act, is the scene of him talking to Alfred. Once again, strictly an ultimate cut thing. You have to watch the 3-hour cut to see it. I know, I'm just, gatekeeping here. But the scene where he's talking to Alfred, then he tells Alfred that his ancestors were hunters. That's how they got their fame, fortune, glory, was hunting animals. And that's before he goes to hunt Superman It's a super cool scene. I mean, I really do love that scene, that little line of dialogue. It shows Batman's grit. It shows the character. I really do appreciate that. Once again, Snyder may not have been the actual best at it, but still, he had some sauce. He had some juice, he had some sauce. The Batman stuff in this movie, it's good and bad. I gotta give it some love sometimes. My last couple of favorite Superman moments before we go into the third act also is Superman depressed after the bomb. He's very depressed after what happened to the bomb. He's afraid that he didn't see it because he didn't want to see it. And obviously at the time he doesn't know about, the fact that the bomb was encased in lead, but still, he's not sure what Superman is, what Superman means. He's afraid that he was distracted by what the people wanted, that he let everyone in the courtroom die. There's so much things that are weighing on the character that I do like. I do like how Superman does feel like a real life character. He does feel real. He goes through struggles and pains and trauma, but I feel like there's a lot of the character still missing out of all of this. Superman isn't positive, isn't happy. That it doesn't make me feel the character like I really should. Before we go here in third act, though, still I do appreciate Lois investigating also in all this at this time. It's in the ultimate cut of the movie. You have to watch that cut to see it. But Lois Lane actively investigating what happened in Africa, investigating more of the bombing of what happened. She finds out that the seat encased in lead, Superman couldn't see it. Also seeing that the bomber bought fresh food before he went to court. He didn't think that he was going to die. That's not a suicide bombing. Lex Luthor also planted the bomb in the guy's chair before he went out there, which makes it even more crazy for Lex to do that. I mean, if the guy willingly did the bombing, okay, that's one thing. But the fact that the guy didn't want to kill himself, he didn't want to plant a bomb in there, he didn't want to be a suicide bomber, and still being forced to is insane to me. I mean, it's very, very crazy. Also before third act here, Superman climbing Mount Everest or whatever mountain it was, to speak to his dad, and his dad giving him advice on who he should be. One, Superman climbing a mountain speaks volumes. He could have flown up there, he could have did some super speed stuff, but him choosing to climb the mountain speaks volumes to me. I love that. But still, regardless, it's third act time. It's the big fight night moment we all really wanted. So here we go. It's a very packed third act. I know this has been a very long episode. We're over an hour now. I'm going to try to cut it up here pretty fast. We're short on time, but I still have a lot of stuff to dive into here for third act. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so first things first here, before our third act, big fight night, I have to give my thoughts on the conflicts and the Batman versus Superman stuff in this movie. One is that it's all external. I feel like these two guys, obviously they hate each other, but mainly because they were forced to by Lex Luthor pulling the strings. That's so uninteresting. And, most of this movie up to this point has been more of a philosophical confrontation instead of an actual Civil War, being more intimate. That's what I love about Civil War versus this film. Civil War was more intimate. They were fighting for a reason. And not because of Baron Zemo 100% all the time, but still the final battle with Captain America and Iron Man in that movie is because Bucky, Winter Soldier, killed Tony Stark's parents, but he didn't really know. He's under mind control. And that's really where a lot of the conflict comes there. And also the conflict between the Sokovia Accords in that movie and how that's really internal and intimate with that group. And that's what caused them to tear apart. Those are things to me that I feel like make Civil War so much better than this. There's a reason why Captain America and Iron Man are fighting. It's not to the death fighting, but still they're fighting for a reason. They're fighting for an actual reason that's very much more intimate and actual internal conflict instead of just being gaslit by a random guy who has mental problems. A lot of this film's conflict just drives because of Lex Luthor's hatred for Superman. Hear him say, if God is all good, he cannot be all powerful. And if God's all powerful, he cannot be all good. And he just wants to expose Superman as being a fraud. That's the entire movie conflict. I feel like this could have been inside of a Man of Steel 2, have Lex Luthor, instead of here in a Batman vs. Superman movie. It feels as so necessary. I'm not a big fan of it in any regard. But, I feel like the structure of this universe, something I could talk about maybe next week, because the structure of this whole DCEU was a dumpster fire. It's a lot of stuff being rushed too quick and not structured cohesively at all. What I will say is very cool, though, is capturing Martha Kent and writing witch on her forehead as she's gagged and taking pictures of it is once again purely a Snyder thing. Snyder being dark for being dark, I will say, is cool. Superman threatens him with laser eyes, with laser vision. I feel like that's a pass there. I mean, taking a boy's mom and doing that to her, he gets a pass for being super dark here. But still, would Superman do that? You tell me. We have a little fan mail thing down there below. Is Superman dark in this movie, or is he just, being realistic? You tell me. And obviously, once again, Lex Luthor just wants Superman to fight Batman because if he doesn't, he's going to kill his mom. Once again, completely external conflict. There's no real driving force at all. These two guys really don't even hate each other. They were just told and gaslit to do that, which I think makes the movie just so weak. But still, moving on, no one says good in this world. It's time for Fight Night. Before Fight Night, obviously we have our Justice League trailer moment, which I think is cool but whack. It's just so out of the blue. It's such a hey, the studio wants to do this, so let's just go ahead and throw it in there. We're going to show off that we have this 4K quality footage of Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg, and they're all going to be in our next movie for Justice League. It's a trailer moment that's just so bad and so whack, but still, it's kind of cool, but corny. Moving on. It's time for Fight Night moment here with the movie. Fight Night, it's very, very cool. Once again, the IMAX is breathtaking. I love the IMAX here. Snyder cooked that little boxy format. I'm a sucker for it, so I'm here for it all day. And once again here, the fight is done. I'm not mad at Batman that he won. Batman won. He had prep time. That's what all the Batman fanboys say. Batman with prep time can beat Goku. We say that all the time, so I'm not mad. He had a week of prep time. He packed up Superman. That's how it should go. I understand that. But I'm just mad at Superman. The movie is called Batman vs. Superman. I get that. There has to be conflict. The whole breathe in, breathe out, that's fear moment. We have to have the conflict, super cool moment to sell tickets. I understand it. But still, I feel like in this moment, Superman, he wouldn't try and fight Batman if he knows Martha's going to be killed. He's trying actively not to fight him in the beginning. He says, Bruce, I was wrong. And he's walking towards him, yet he's still fighting him for what reason? I feel like if he wanted to go the route of not fighting Batman to resolve the issue, to get Batman on his side, to help save Martha, he would do that. Or if you're going to kill Batman, you can kill him in 2 seconds. In reality here, I understand all the prep time stuff, but in reality, Superman could tear Batman in half in 5 seconds. But still, Superman doesn't choose to do that. He chooses to waste time. And, really, it's just so dumb to me. I feel like the whole structure of the fight scene, it feels so weird. Why would Superman actively try to fight if he wants to save Martha and partner with Batman? Doesn't make sense. If you watch the whole third act Fight Night scene, you can see just how dumb it is. And now, obviously, the moment that you've been waiting for me to cover here, the Save Martha scene. I am a pure defender of this moment. Bruce Wayne, about to kill Clark Kent, Superman, and then Superman says, save Martha. You're letting him kill Martha. Save Martha. She's trapped away somewhere. And, Batman, in this moment, what everyone says and what everyone makes fun of is oh my gosh, look, they had their moms had the same name, therefore that's why he saved him. That's not the reason why. If you say that, I know for a fact you didn't watch the movie. You don't understand it. You're being too harsh on it. Because the reason Batman spares Superman is not because they just have the same mom name. That's not the reason why. I think the reason he spares him is because he's having a panic attack and realizes he's wrong. He's having heavy PTSD panic attack, as we can see from him remembering the night that his mom died and his dad saying his mom's name as he's grasping his last breaths for life. He's reaching towards his wife, Martha. That is the reason why he spares him, is because of a very heavy panic attack. And of course, he's remembering also Thomas Wayne. His father, Thomas Wayne, was one of, if not the only man that Bruce Wayne ever looked up to. And in his last moment, he's saying, Martha, save Martha, and he sees a bit of his father in Clark Kent in that moment, understanding that that's his mom's name, and that in his final breaths for life, Clark Kent or Superman chose to not get some very snarky last word out, but instead he decides in his last moments of life, choose to sacrifice his breath to save someone else. That's what Bruce Wayne, Batman, saw in that moment. So once again, if you're someone who says that just because they had the same name, their mom said the same name, that's why Batman spared him, I think you're wrong. I think you really just haven't seen the movie. Batman has a panic attack, has a PTSD moment where he remembers that his father, Thomas Wayne, said the same thing before he died to his wife. Then in the moment where Superman is about to die, he himself does the same type thing that his father did, which he looked up to in that moment. And Clark Kent chooses to save someone else's life before his own, which therefore makes Batman believe that he was really wrong himself, and he knows Superman's actually good, and therefore spares him. A very long explanation, but still, people don't know about the movie, and they're way too harsh, and are just so dumb, in my opinion, for that take. So, still, once again, that's it. There's a lot of dumb in this movie, but still, this moment is not one of them. I know on the surface it can be silly, and it can feel kind of dumb, but still, I think it works. I think it's a very beautiful moment here for the character of Batman. All right, so that rant out of the way, we're almost done here with the episode now. We're almost done. Give me like 5-10 minutes, we're about to be out of here. So the warehouse scene is cool. The warehouse scene with Batman is the best Batman action scene that it most likely won't get topped ever. The fight coordination, the action, it's super cool. It's like Arkham Knight Batman in live action. That's all you could ever ask for. It's spectacular. I adore it. It's incredible. But, you know, Batman killing is not. And yes, Batman does kill people in this moment. Is it, you know, maybe indirect killing? At times, maybe. But still, Batman does also murder people in this moment. Once again, Batman killing, big no-no. But regardless, still, Batman saves Martha Kent. And therefore, you know, now, Batman and Superman, they're friends. Cool. And, you know, that's one third act out the way. We still have our second part of the third act, which is Doomsday. And Doomsday confuses me. It really does confuse me. I don't understand Doomsday or Lex Luthor's plan because really, to me, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So for me, I don't understand why Lex Luthor decided to make Doomsday. Like, what was his plan there? I understand, obviously, Doomsday is made to kill Superman, right? But what if Batman killed Superman in that moment? You know, what if Batman killed Superman in the third act and then now Doomsday is still going to be born regardless? That was going to happen no matter what. So what was his plan with that, you know? So was his plan still to release Doomsday even if Superman died? And why is the question. You know, I don't really understand. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Then still, what if Superman kills Batman? Then Superman comes back, fight and kills Doomsday. Like, what was his plan in this moment? I still don't really understand. Like, some of these moments right here in the movie, it feels like Doomsday is here to have Doomsday. And, you know, Lex Luthor made him. That was the whole thing, the whole shebang. Which still, to me, doesn't make sense all the time. But, you know, still, movie's a movie. Can't do anything about it. It's kind of dumb sometimes, but, you know, it is what it is. And the CGI for Doomsday, I am a fan of it. The CGI for it isn't exactly bad. I wish there were more, like, horns and spikes for Doomsday. That would make, I feel like, more sense to me. It just does look kind of vacant. It looks like more of the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk instead of actually Doomsday. Doomsday should have more, like, horns coming out of his face instead of here it's, like, barely any at all, you know. I would like more. Would have liked more, but it didn't do it. Nuking Doomsday in space, though, is a super cool moment. And Doomsday surviving that is crazy. Superman killing from the sun, all here for that. Batman saying, oh shit, when he sees Doomsday's about to charge him. It's extremely relatable. You know, I understand maybe you can say, like, oh, Batman shouldn't swear. In this moment, I'll give him a pass. Really, this third act part is so fast and so quick. I mean, I feel like the whole Doomsday thing was, I wouldn't say shoehorned in here, but it really wasn't given the flesh out it deserved. I feel like maybe Superman should have died in his own movie instead of here. You know, I do like the whole Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman team up. It's all very cool. But, you know, still, I feel like it's so quick and so nothing. I would have liked for it to be in his own movie. A more fleshed out plot would have been very nice. There's just one animated film, Superman, or Death Superman, the movie, is super cool because it's like a Justice League movie with the entire Justice League. You know, you have Batman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, The Flash, all of them are trying to fight Doomsday, but they can't. And that entire movie is around Superman sacrificing himself and fighting Doomsday. That's the entire movie. I feel like here, Doomsday is like a B plot. He's a B or like a D or an F villain at this point because there's so many villains and stuff going on in the movie. He's very much so back of the line for villains, which really shouldn't happen at all. I'm not sure if James Gunn is going to want to do a whole Superman death era, then him being revived. I'm not sure he'll want to do that in his movies, but we'll see. I feel like Doomsday is such a cool villain and one that can really be done well if they do it right. In this moment here, it's not awful, but I feel like Doomsday, it could have been a lot better if they did it right. And still, the death of Superman in this moment, I think is a great scene. The whole "this is my world" scene, then the great scene with the music. It's really, really cool. I love the moment of Superman flying with the kryptonite spear into Doomsday, then also Superman sacrificing himself. But still, I think that Superman is killed off way too early in this whole franchise thing. This is only his second movie as Superman. He gets killed off. Then the next year, 2017, is when Justice League came out and he was revived. I feel like you shouldn't kill off Superman this early, and you shouldn't have revived him that quick either. We're going to get to him being revived soon. But still, Superman has had an impact on the world, but I feel like for the character in general, for the audience, we'll say, he hasn't had an impact at all. To where you kill him in this very big moment, I feel like it's not earned at all. This is only his second movie. Once his only second movie, he hasn't been Superman for even like 2 years. He hasn't been Superman for like 2 years. So it feels weird to have this happen this early. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but still, it's a very beautiful scene that I do really, really love. And of course, he does learn a lot about what it means to be Superman, but still, it happened just way too early for me. I would have had it happen a lot later down the line. It would have made a little more sense and would have been more fleshed out. Also, Lex Luthor is obviously seeing the mother boxes and the Justice League villain from, Steppenwolf. Seeing that model of Steppenwolf is super cool. But seeing the mother boxes and seeing the prophecy of what's going to happen in the Justice League movie is cool. I do like that, but I still feel like it's just rushing this universe. We should have had more of the solo movies, maybe like a solo Batman movie, and, really making all these heroes converge into Justice League film. And then maybe having Superman die in that movie would make maybe a little more sense. I don't know. But still, it's a lot happening in this movie. It's very ambitious, and I love all that. But still, I would have had it happen a little bit differently. I do love Superman's funeral and his memorial. I mean, his more private funeral. We do see, obviously, Batman, like I said in this movie, he didn't want to be evil. He didn't want to be dark. He went down a very dark path. He says that he failed Superman in life and he won't fail him again in death. That clearly shows that this Batman, in the end of the movie, he understands that he did really wrong things. He killed people when he shouldn't have. He was very dark. He wasn't the Batman that he should be, and which will obviously lead him on to be better as we go into the Justice League film. That was clearly the point as we went into these movies, and people, I think, still just don't see that. I feel like they're very harsh and just misunderstand what the film was trying to do. Obviously, Batman was wrong and evil. He understood that, addressed it, said that he was wrong and did Superman dirty and failed Superman, and he won't fail him again in death. That, I think, makes the entire movie. I feel like that makes the entire arc of Batman actually make sense. When our character is bad and wrong, and he recognizes that and says that on screen, not in some random little comic tie-in in the movie. He says that. That makes it a lot better for me. I really do like that a lot. It's a very cool thing Snyder threw in there. It's not like Batman said, oh yeah, I know that I maybe tried to kill him, but I was right in all the situations. I was right for killing all those people and all those criminals. He didn't say that at all. That makes it a lot better for me. I love that moment. I love this Batman still. Maybe love is a strong word, but I like the Batman in this movie a lot, and I will always to this day. And still, Batman interrogating Lex Luthor, I feel like he had to, have one last Batman interrogation moment, threaten to brand him and kill him in that same instance. But, giving him mercy, telling him that he's going to be watching him, going to be sending him away to Arkham Asylum. I love when Batman tells Lex Luthor he's going to be sending him to Arkham Asylum, then seeing Lex Luthor's just face and his smile just slowly fade away is everything. I really wish we got that Arkham Asylum movie with Ben Affleck Batman. I guess we'll talk about it now. In the future, I guess, we would have seen this, after 2017 Justice League, we would have gotten a solo Batman movie. The rumors are that it would have been, obviously Matt Reeves was supposed to be the director of that movie, and then we would have had a Batman movie where Batman is like fighting through Arkham Asylum, just like the game, I guess, but he's fighting through Arkham Asylum, fighting through his rogues gallery of villains. That would have been so cool, but we couldn't get it, unfortunately. I mean, maybe one day, you never know. We were able to get the standard cut. Anything's possible. Still, it's very sad to see that we never got this whole universe fully fleshed out, but it is what it is. It's just like the grave in the end of this movie with Superman. If you seek his monument, look around you. That's the best Superman related to anything I've heard all my entire life. If you seek his monument, look around you. We're probably, never going to see Henry Cavill on screen as Superman ever again. I hope that once again, if there's like a crisis on Infinite Earth movie, then we get to see like the multiverse, then maybe we get Henry Cavill back in some regard. It would be cool, but unlikely at the end of the day. But still, if you seek what this universe did, look around you. This universe and this whole movie, it's a lot, but still, I really do appreciate it. My final score for the movie is obviously going to be an A-. I know it's very high, but still, I have grown to love this movie the more I watch and analyze it. I think it's cool. And you know what? I just had to give it a little bit of grace and love. And I was like, you know what? Let me give it a 9 out of 10. I just figured I'd just give it a 9 out of 10. I was feeling a little bit nice today. Let me give it a 9 out of 10. Why not? Also, didn't even talk about the end of the movie. But still, we can obviously see the end of the film with Lois Lane drops the dirt into the grave of Superman. Then the dirt slowly rises up. That obviously tells us the next movie, next year, we're going to revive him. Once again, if you're going to kill off Superman, have the death be felt at least. Have him die and not appear or come back in anything for years. And then eventually revive him in like a Justice League 2 would be really cool to have him be revived in. But still, dumb, stupid, not a fan of it. Is what it is. Movie's over. Episode's over, technically. And, it's going to be kind of sad. I guess this is the last Superman movie. The next one is the Justice League film. But this is, I guess, the last, main Superman movie with Henry Cavill in it. And as we go into the next one, that'll be it. We're done. But still, it was sad to see. I mean, Henry Cavill was so good, but, we're not giving him his final farewell yet. We're not there yet. But still, if you want to go, you can go. If you want to stay, we got our superlatives very fast, and we're going to be out of here. So stay tuned for that.
You are a blowfish.
What? Lady, whatever you're selling, I ain't buying, yo.
Well, my name is Skylar White, yo.
I get a spot? Okay.
So very fast superlatives here. Number one is our favorite super scene. I think it is the death scene. This is my world scene of Superman sacrificing himself to kill Doomsday. I think that's the best scene in the movie for sure. Man, that's just me. There's a lot of great Superman moments in the movie, but still, that's the best one. I guess a tie would be Day of the Dead scene. Change my answer. They're both great scenes. That's the two-way tie. Death scene, Day of the Dead. Two of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Clear tie. For my next award here in this movie, my favorite quote, I think definitely goes to Lex Luthor. Him saying, that should be upside down. We know better now, don't we? Devils don't come from hell beneath us. No, they come from the sky. That's, I think, the best quote in the movie. I mean, there's a lot of great quotes here in the script, but I think that's definitely the clear one for sure. Then my favorite non-Superman character, it's Batman. He's my favorite hero of all time. I understand Batman does not kill, but still, the character of Batman here, it's a different take on the character, which I maybe don't agree with fully, but still I think it's kind of smart. He did a pretty cool job here. And then for Buzz from the Backlot, I have a little bit of fun facts here that I think you'll really, really enjoy. We'll only have 3 here for today, but for our first fun fact here, Ben Affleck gained an additional 20 pounds of muscle and reached 8% body fat for the role of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. For our second fun fact here, in response to negative and mixed reviews, Ben Affleck Batman said, "We made this movie for the fans, not the critics." His co-star Henry Cavill, Superman, said similar things in other interviews. And my answer to this is, if they made this film for the fans, then why do the fans not like it? I understand maybe thinking, oh my gosh, Logan just roasted him. That's a genuine question. I mean, really, if they made this movie for the fans, with the fans in mind, why are audiences, well, the fans at least, are so split or majority of fans do not like this movie. Why is that the case at all? I mean, really, I don't know. I mean, if this movie is for the fans, why do they remake the entire universe and scrap it all altogether? I mean, that's my true, honest question. I really think about that a lot now as I rewatch the movie, is like, why then? Why are there so many instances where Superman and Batman aren't doing Superman and Batman things that the fans really are in mind? Then why is that the case? Something to think about. That's all. I mean, I'm just giving you something to think about here. On if this movie is for the fans, why do the fans not like it? That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's the entire thing to talk about all day long, but still, we're not talking about it here today. For our final fun fact here is that Michael Shannon never actually shot any scenes for this film, and the production used a rubber dummy for Zod's corpse. He stated in the movie, there's a large rubber version of my naked body that Lex Luthor is playing with. He said the only thing he did for that is I did some ADR lines for Zack Snyder and thought he might use it in the movie of my disembodied spirit talking to Lex Luthor. Now, I do like that. I like that. It's just such a freaky idea of a dead Zod talking to Lex Luthor in this movie through like the Kryptonian archive spirits and stuff. That would have been cool. I mean, I understand the movie already is super crowded with so much stuff, but still, I understand it doesn't really have a place to fit anywhere, but that would be super cool to hear one day, just to see what was Zod saying to Lex Luthor in his like spirit was saying to him. That would be cool to see. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that would be very, very cool. But that's the fun facts out of the way. For the MVP, I'm gonna be giving it away to a tie. It is a tie here for today. We're giving the MVP here to Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. They're both the MVP. This movie is called Batman vs. Superman. This movie, I feel like, wouldn't really work. It already doesn't really work for some people's eyes. But for me, it works so well because of both of them being incredible. That's why I think about it a lot, and I really do appreciate that. They're awesome. They're incredible. Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, I'll go ahead and mail this award to them. It's a little macaroni trophy. That's what the budget was able to give us today, I guess. And still, that's it for today's episode. We're all done here. If you haven't already, get your tickets for Superman. That's going to be going up already. Actually, it's already up right now for sale, so go ahead and buy that. And next week, we're obviously talking about the Snyder Cut for Justice League. That is the last movie Henry Cavill starred in for the DCEU. You may be saying, Logan, Superman was actually in Black Adam for a quick little post-credit scene. I don't care. We're not talking about Black Adam. We're talking about Superman in Justice League, and then we're done. We're done with that. We're done with this character until the new movie comes out. So stay tuned for that. Today is Wednesday. The episode is actually going to be going out today in the morning. And also The Bear is out today too. So watch The Bear if you haven't already. The Bear is incredible. And if you haven't already, leave us a review. Follow us everywhere. And until next time, stay swagged out. Stay cool. Watch more films. And until next time, I'll see you boys in the movies.
Shine.